Welcome to Culture Shock Therapy, your health equity prescription. I'm your host, Dr. Katrina Gipson, emergency medicine physician and health equity thought leader. If this is your first time joining us, I hope it won't be your last. To orient you, this is a platform in the podcast universe where we discuss how policy and pop culture impact the social drivers of health and health inequities. Of greatest importance, I hope to inform and empower the community. Recently, we discussed how the Paris Olympics became a platform for cultural appropriation in the breakdancing competition. Today, let's pivot to discuss the role and impact of women at these historic games. 26 of the 40 gold medals won by Team USA were won by women, which is 65% of the total gold medals won by Team USA. Team USA won 126 medals overall, which was the most of any country, with women accounting for more than half of those medals. The performance of the women athletes were described as inspiring and a testament to the impact of Title IX. The Office of Civil Rights of the United States Department of Education enforces Title IX, which was passed in 1972. It's a federal law that prohibits discrimination based on sex in educational settings that receive federal fundings. So we're talking about admissions, enrollment, academic programs, financial aid, and of course, athletics. Undoubtedly, these represent huge gains for women in sports and equity for women across the board. So let's pivot to discuss a particular Olympian who happens to not be an American. I'd like to talk to you all about Rebecca Cheptegei. She was born February 22nd, 1991. She was a Ugandan cross-country long-distance and national record-holding marathon runner. She was the second born of 13 siblings in Bukwa, Uganda. Cheptegei later moved to the village of Chepkum in Kenya, buying property to be closer to athletic training centers. The mother of two daughters, she joined the Uganda People's Defense Force in 2008 and eventually rose to become a sergeant. Cheptegei represented Uganda at several world championships since 2010, including IAAF, the International Amateur Athletic Foundation World Cross Country Championships, World Mountain and Trail Running Championships, and World Athletic Championships. Her other many athletic accomplishments include coming in second at the Madrid Half Marathon, later finishing third in the Camargo Spanish 10,000 meter road running championships. Cheptegei finished third in the Quanzhou Half Marathon in 2016 and 12th in the Shanghai Half Marathon in 2017. She won the 2022 Padova Marathon and was second in the 10,000 meter at the Ugandan Championships in Kampala. In the same year, she set a Ugandan national record of 2 hours, 22 minutes, 47 seconds in the marathon event and won the postponed 2021 World Marathon and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai, Thailand. In 2024, Cheptegei qualified and competed for Uganda in the women's marathon at the Summer Olympics in Paris, finishing in 44th place. On September 1st, 2024, Rebecca Cheptegei was brutally attacked by her former partner, who doused her with gasoline and set her ablaze over a dispute involving land that she purchased. On September 5th, she succumbed to her injuries. I'd like to extend my sincerest condolences to her family, friends, and fans. May she rest in power with the ancestors. Unfortunately, Cheptegei's brutal attack and murder was not an isolated event. She is the third female athlete in Kenya murdered by their partner since 2021. 2021, just 3 years. The other two include Agnes Jabet Terope. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing her name, but she was a 25-year-old Olympic runner and two-time world championship bronze medalist. She was stabbed to death in her home in Kenya in 21. Her husband was charged with her murder and has pleaded not guilty. The following year, in 2022, Kenyan-born runner Damaris Muti Matua was found strangled by her boyfriend, the prime suspect who remains wanted for her murder. Kenya has one of the highest rates of violence against women in Africa. According to a recent article by the BBC, in January of this year alone, more than 10 women in the country were victims of femicide, defined by the UN, United Nations, as a killing of women because of their gender. Let it be clear that femicide is not a uniquely Kenyan problem. The United Nations Women website further defines femicide as an intentional killing with a gender related motivation. Femicide may be driven by stereotyped gender roles, discrimination towards women and girls, unequal power relations between women and men, or harmful social norms. There are 5 key findings regarding femicide according to UN Women's website. Number one, women and girls are most likely to be killed by those closest to them, which probably is not all that surprising. For instance, in 2022, around 48,800 women and girls worldwide were killed by their intimate partners or other family members. So that means, on average, approximately 133 women and girls are killed each and every day by their own family members. Number two, femicide is a universal problem. It affects people across the globe. According to a new report in 2022, the African continent recorded the largest absolute number of female intimate partner and family related killings, with an estimated 20,000 victims. Of concern, the true scale of femicide is likely much higher. For approximately 4 in 10, or 40% of intentional murders of women and girls, there is not enough information to identify them as gender related killings. And this is due to national variation in criminal justice recordings, underreportings due to fear of retaliation, and investigation practices, of course, also vary by country across the globe, or even by state to state here in the United States. It's important to take into consideration that some groups of women and girls face greater risk. That's the fourth thing that women would like you all to take into consideration. For instance, women in the public eye, including those in politics, women who engage in women's rights and human rights defenders, journalists, people who bring attention to these types of killings are often targets of intentional acts of violence, including online and offline bullying and threats, which can be fatal, leading to brutal murders. The fifth and probably most important thing to remember when it comes to femicide is that it can and must be prevented. Now, as you all know, I don't just bring you all these, sad statistics and stories for the purposes of making you feel badly. Your health equity prescription is what you can do about it. I'd like to reiterate that femicide is 100% preventable. We must acknowledge, discuss, and transform dangerous social norms as they pertain to women. Gender, and of course, race and ethnicity based pay inequities contribute to femicide. A lack of reproductive rights for childbearing persons can also make women more vulnerable to femicide. Equal access to education and the financial freedom also there that is a result of this access to education can also reduce femicide rates. And for those of you listening, things that you can do personally is to evaluate the type of music that you listen to. Does it normalize and perpetuate violence against women? I'd also like to propose a challenge to our male listeners. Specifically, educate yourself about a health or political based initiative that directly or disproportionately impacts women. This includes things such as reproductive rights, maternal mortality inequities, gender based pay gaps, and maternity leave. Share that initiative with your network. I first proposed this challenge to men to bring attention to some sort of health or political based initiative that disproportionately affects women in a Black emergency medicine chat group of which I'm a part. I distinctly remember because it was September 5th. It was the same day in which DeQuantes Devontae Lamar, aka Rich Homie Quan, an Atlanta based rapper, passed away from a drug overdose on September 5th. For many, this led, to a series of conversations, Instagram live posts, social media posts about opioid abuse and addiction. And I think that this was important. This is an initiative that disproportionately affects the Black community as well. And I'm thankful for the attention that was, brought regarding opioid use and abuse. Unfortunately, it was in the setting of a life lost too soon. However, when I reminded the group about Cheptegei, there was near silence from the male persuasion. So I just want to remind you all and reiterate that women's rights are human rights. They're not just issues because they disproportionately affect women. It's not something that men should ignore. So I just like to remind you all that women's rights are human rights. Evaluate how your own thoughts and actions may perpetuate harmful and deadly stereotypes against women. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Dr. Katrina Gipson, and this is Culture Shock Therapy, your health equity prescription.
Hola.